So one of the names I know certainly is on the list is Lille's Jonathan David. He is on that shortlist. He is a player that the club have followed for quite a while, to be fair. Kind of his name has come up in the last couple of summers. If you're not aware who he is, he's a Brooklyn-born 24-year-old striker, but a Canada international. He's currently playing at the Copa America, played against Christian Romero in Argentina on Friday night. Last season for Lille, he got 26 goals in 47 games. No shabby effort at all. And actually, he also scored 26 goals the previous season as well. I think the one before that was 19. So he is a regular high-scoring player in that league. And he is a player of, I'd say, serious interest to Spurs because he's made that shortlist. His contract runs out in 2025, which means he could be, than previous summers when they've looked at him, he'll probably be a better, lower price tag. Some of the talk seems to be around the £25 million mark as well. But obviously he's at the Copa America right now, so you would imagine things aren't probably going to kind of smash into the action on that straight away. It may do. It may. Someone kind of, every time, like I did some stuff about Eberechi Eze the other day, and people were saying, just get it done. And you kind of think, but he's at the Euros. And I was trying to rack my brains, and please help me with this in case I've missed anyone. Is there anyone at the Euros or Copa America that while the competition is underway and they are playing games, has anyone moved yet? Please let me know. And genuinely, I don't know. So I didn't want to say like, oh, it's impossible. No one moves during a tournament if it's happened, because it would look like an absolute muppet. It may happen, but do let me know. But I would imagine the phrase I would say was highly unlikely, because essentially they're in a zone, aren't they? I think stuff can be progressed behind the scenes between clubs and agents, representatives, whatever you want to call them. But when it comes down to the actual player and finalising a move and actually making it public that it's done as well is another thing. Sometimes, maybe quite a few times, things are agreed and pretty much officially confirmed behind the scenes, but they can't come out with it publicly for a number of reasons. And I'm not saying that's happened. It may happen. I don't know. But I'm not saying that's happened with anyone that I'm aware of. But I'm just saying the Euros and Copa America get in the way. So, yeah, Jonathan David is there. Like I say, he was up against Christian Romero. I used a photo of my story earlier, actually, of the two of them battling. Obviously, Romero and Argentina got the upper hand. They won, I think it was 2-0 on Friday night. And the other names on this shortlist will come out. They'll emerge in the next few days. I have no doubt there'll be a couple more that come out. I've kind of been chasing around today trying to see who's on it, who's not on it. So I kind of got the confirmation that Jonathan David was one of them on it. And as always, when you're looking at transfers, it's kind of, it's easier to kind of get people ruled out by various sides of the deal, because you know how I work. As I've always said, it's always kind of a two-source thing. So one that was on it previously in the process that they've certainly looked at, who does not appear to have made the final shortlist, is Santiago Jimenez, the final striker, who's had a very good season for them as well. He's been linked with the club loads, scored 23 goals in the Eredivisie last season, 23-year-old Mexican, and he was actually spotted at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium earlier in the season. That apparently he was there as a guest of an agent rather than invited by the club or anything like that. So from what I understand, he's not on this short list of the ones they're looking at. Another player that certainly the club, it feels like the club have distanced themselves, or certainly people within the club have distanced themselves from in the last week or so. And you've probably seen other journalists. This is not kind of just me. Other journalists have said this one as well. Toney at Brentford. Feels like Spurs have kind of stepped away from that situation, certainly at this stage in the window. I'm intrigued to see where he goes, and whether kind of all of the buzz about he was definitely going here or there and he was going to be this big fee, what actually ends up happening with him. Because it was kind of nailed on it was going to Arsenal. They seem to have kind of stepped away from that, certainly from reports that's going on. And whether towards the end of the window his price comes down or not. Be an interesting one. He's obviously not really getting the time at the Euros. But yeah, certainly from a Spurs perspective, people seem to have been distancing themselves from him or the club from him and making a potential move. He had a funny season, didn't he? Obviously, we know what happened in his band. His band, and then he came back, had his little flurry where it was like, oh, he's back. And then it kind of dropped off a bit, and he didn't really hit the ground running, I think, as a lot of people maybe expected in the remainder of the season. So I don't know. I don't know what will happen with him. But so that's Ivan Toney. We've also Bologna's Joshua Zirkzee, who has been linked a couple of times, mainly been linked elsewhere. I think Chelsea have been quite strongly linked with him, and there's someone else, might be Man U. But from what I understand, he's not one that Spurs are considering at this point. Again, probably not in that high scoring range. I think he had, unless I'm mixing him up with another. I've looked at so many strikers today and been asking around so many different people involved in every possible capacity in the transfer market you can imagine, like around players, around clubs, everything. I think he only got 8 goals this season. I'm trying to remember. I should have written that down. Another one, he's technically not really a central striker, he's more of a winger. Federico Chiesa. I like him. I think he's a good player, and kind of bits and pieces I've seen of him, he's always kind of impressed me. But from what I understand, not thought to be a potential transfer target with Spurs, certainly at this point in the summer. So yeah, that's kind of some that we know. Probably the biggest one out of that, maybe 2, are Jimenez and Toney. That kind of at the start of the window we thought they'd. I think with Toney there was always a kind of an idea that there'd be so much competition for him, Spurs probably wouldn't be in the race. But now it appears to kind of, I don't know whether maybe there is a move that's been lined up for the end of the Euros. That could be the case, but certainly Spurs are not kind of putting themselves in that race at the moment, it seems. And Jimenez as well. I guess there's loads of ways to look at it. You could look at Toney and say, yes, you know, he hasn't had the greatest kind of end to the season after coming back. The other thing I should say about the shortlist as well, maybe this is a part of some aspect of some of the names that you're hearing or not hearing, is that Spurs are looking for their classic kind of Spurs profile of a player who is for the now but also the long term. So probably more looking towards a striker in there at the most mid-20s, maybe at the best for them, kind of that, you know, younger age range of like a 22, 23, 24-year-old type. But yeah, I'm intrigued to see where they go because, and you know, again, I wouldn't say they're on that shortlist unless I could get it confirmed from a couple of sources. That's why I've said Jonathan David is one of those. Other ones I know that they've looked at over the last 12 months, but obviously are in a much bigger, higher price bracket. Luis Openda, the Belgian forward at RB Leipzig. He's only 24, 28 goals in 45 matches in the Bundesliga and Champions League. He is going to be huge money this summer. Apparently, he has a release clause for 2025, which is for 80 million euros, which is around 67.8 million pounds, because he's got 4 years left in his contract. Big deal. And apparently, if Leipzig were to even consider letting him go, it would be for way more than that, 67.8. So I don't know what you're talking about. 80 million more, I don't know for that. Another one, of course, everyone's spoken about at length is Victor Gyökeres. I think that's how I was told to pronounce it in Sweden. Gyökeres. Actually, I think that's it. Obviously, he's been a goal machine. 43 goals in 50 matches for Sporting this last season in the Portuguese league. And he, actually across all competitions, that'll be. But apparently Sporting have put an £85.8 million price tag on him. So not at the cheap end of the range. He, if you weren't aware, came through the Brommapojkarna Academy in Stockholm, edge of Stockholm, with Dejan Kulusevski and Lucas Bergvall. So there is a little link there. Another one that Spurs have looked at over the years, and again, I'm not saying these are on the shortlist, I'm just saying these are players that I haven't been able to get any extra confirmation on, or get anything more than the fact that Spurs have looked at them. Dominic Solanke, you know, Spurs have been linked with him for years. He is 26 now, so he's kind of at the upper end of that mid-20s we're talking about. There's some suggestions that he's got a £65 million release clause, but only for certain clubs. I don't know whether that's involves certain amounts of European football or anything. A lot of people are quite down on Solanke. I think he'd be brilliant at Spurs. I do. I mean, he scored 21 goals last season at Bournemouth. But yeah, 3 years left in his contract. Big contract. Again, another one I think a fair few will go out after because he's homegrown too.